I do. I didn't realize we were already 10:30.
It is.
So we'll wait a minute just to get everybody in here.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
I know it, right?
Just it just flies by.
It looks like it's rain here today in Cleveland,
It'll be different by this afternoon.
right? All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be doing our workshop today on Megatrends. This is Al Morrison. He's going to be giving our presentation today.
Morning.
Just so you know, you will be able to get the slides and the recording of this. I will send it in an email after later today, probably. Also, if you have questions, you can type them into the QA or the chat. Um, Al usually pauses once in a while to address questions, so feel free to do that. He likes questions. He likes engagement in these, so it's not so one-sided. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Al.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Looking forward to talking with anybody that wants to talk. If you have questions, do please type them in. We'll answer them as we go. So don't wait to the end if you got a question. Probably somebody else has one too. Might even be the same one as yours. So be the person to ask the question. Having said that, megatrends are things that are shaping the business world and your life today and probably tomorrow, because a trend means it's heading in that direction. And so we need to know what those are as business people and as individuals, because if you don't see it coming, it's going to wash right over the top of you. So let's look at some of the things that have been coming for quite a while. And so it's very obvious that they're happening. Before we do that, let's talk about SCORE. If you haven't heard of us, give me 30 seconds. If you have, just stay tuned for a minute. We're a national organization formed in 1964 as a resource partner to the SBA. Nationally, we have over 10,000 volunteers like myself, and surveys show that our clients do much better when they have a mentor, a guide. And if you think about it, think about the wagon trains that left east heading for California. I did some research, and every wagon train that made it to California had a guide. What could we learn from those early pioneers, early settlers that said, I'm trying to go somewhere, and had a guide to help them get there? As you may remember from American history, not all the wagon trains made it there. What happened to them? We don't know. But all we know is they didn't make it. But everyone that did make it had a guide. So that's something to consider. Locally, we're experienced people. Our office is in Akron, but we serve the 4-county area of Mahoning, Medina, Summit, Portage, and Wayne counties. And since we started in 1965, so we're one of the oldest chapters. We've helped over 5,000 clients start a business, grow a business, manage a business, even sell a business. We take it from the full spectrum, from the time it's a twinkle in your eye until the time you make some money, either throw us out, or you sell the business. Our mission is to help small business communities. We believe in small businesses. I believe in small business because it is the growth engine for America. The economy is growing because of small businesses, not because of the big businesses. And I say that because 75% of new jobs, 75%, 3 out of 4 new jobs are manufactured, built by small businesses. And our vision is to have every business have the support they need to thrive. Every business, every person. We've been at that since 1965. We haven't got to every person yet, but we're working on it. That's a bold vision. We hope someday we'll get there. One of the great thinkers of our time, John F. Kennedy, our 35th president, said, conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of success. So if you keep doing what you're doing, that's the enemy of success. You've got to be looking at trends and what's coming down the line, and adapt yourself and your business and your life to what's happening. Another great philosopher, Dick Clark, you remember him from Bandstand and dropping the ball on New Year's Eve. And Dick Clark said, I don't set the trends. I just find what they are and I exploit them. And if you ever watched American Bandstand, probably nobody did, he would find new artists. And sometimes they would be the growth engine for the industry because some of the new people that came along were really successful. He'd pick them out. So trends are important for us. So what are we going to do today? My whole mission is to have you think. Think about what this means to you, to your business, and what's happening in the world. There's lots and lots of things going on. I've picked out a few that I think are significant, not all of them, but a few that that might impact you or your business. And we'll talk about each one of them. Uh, and interesting that most all of them are technology driven because technology has been the major change in our life. It's changed everything we do. So we're going to talk about the disappearing middleman, foregoing ownership for access, and a couple of others. So what's the disappearing middleman? If you think back, there would be a seller and some broker in between. Uh, and that would be an insurance agent or a travel agent or an airline agent or a real estate agent. Somebody's in the middle working with the customer to help them get that product or service. And that broker had the knowledge, makes that connection for you. And because the travel agent knew all the airline schedules, I didn't have them. I didn't know what they were. There was no technology to support that. So the broker was an important person in the value chain of helping me get car insurance, life insurance, air travel, hotels, whatever I needed in the middle. Today, that's gone. That middleman is disappearing radically. Insurance agents are disappearing right and left because you could do it yourself. Esurance, Aetna, the General, New York Life all have online ways you can get your own insurance. Don't need a broker anymore. Book publishers used to be right in the middle, and they would publish the book and distribute it out to bookstores. But now you can go directly to Amazon or Apple or Smashwords and get whatever book you want, send it right to your house. So you don't need that middleman anymore. And travel agents, good grief, they're dying right and left because you can't find a travel agent. You can use Kayak or Airbnb or Travelocity or TripAdvisor, any one of those, do it yourself. So that middleman is rapidly disappearing. And if you're one of those middlemen at the moment, I'd be really concerned about what the future holds, because that's the direction that things are going. Second major trend is the foregoing of ownership for access. People don't want ownership. Traditionally, what happened is the product went to the buyer and the buyer put it in his inventory. So I had a photo album, I had a library of books, I had a library of music, I had a library of movies. I paid for my car, bought it on time, owned my own home. All of those things I owned. Today, people don't want ownership. They can download a book with anyone that downloads Kindle or whatever, and they don't need an inventory of books. iTunes, they don't need an inventory of CDs for music or whatever. Movies the same way. Netflix, I can download whatever I want whenever I want it. I don't have a photo album. I keep them on my phone. My car, nobody buys a car anymore. A lot of people lease them. And that was unheard of 50 years ago, leasing a car. Nobody did that. You bought them. And interesting enough, there is a company out in the Midwest that is building 1,000 homes that are going to be leased. Not going to sell them, going to lease them. They just put up a retirement community up the street from me, and the sign out front says, lease your new home. So I'm not going to sell them anymore. They're leased. They're small, little 2-bedroom homes for retired people, and they lease them. So if you're in the ownership business, you might want to think, is this something you want to get ahead of? And actually start doing things like helping people lease them, rent them, and maybe even return them. There's a thinker that believes that sooner or later a lot of things are going to be returned. You're not going to keep anything. You're going to return everything. It's original, and manufacturers will recycle it. We've been doing that for bottles and cans for years and years. Why can't we do it and we do it when we lease cars? We take it back to the dealer. So maybe everything that we have will be leased, borrowed, but not owned. I was speaking to a small group of folks uh, down south of me, and one gentleman in the front row raised his hand. He says, Al, I don't own anything. And the room went silent. And somebody said, anything? Nope. He said, I rent everything. How about clothes? Oh, he says you can get those online and you can keep it for a couple of weeks or a month and turn it back in again. I don't own anything. Very interesting concept for the young generation, not having any ownership of anything, no inventory. Different way of thinking about the world. And this is so technology enabled that the provider uses some kind of platform. Airbnb gets you a room. You don't need a travel agent. You just directly, and you don't own anything. You just borrow it. People are doing that with airplanes. They've been doing that with airplanes for years. They're doing it with boats, cars, bicycles, scooters, electric scooters. You see them on the street corner. You pick up the scooter, take it where you want, drop it. Somebody comes around at night, recharges them, put them back. So this nobody owns anything. It's a very interesting trend, and that's something I said. If you're in the ownership business, you want to think about that pretty seriously. A comment from uh, one of our folks is, my clients appreciate my planning. Another one said, wow, this is a paradigm changing. Thank you. It does. The paradigm is shifting. When you think about that, the insurance business, what about it? It's harder to find an insurance agent today. Everything's online. I was talking with a woman last evening about buying insurance, and she's bought it online. She hasn't talked to anybody about insurance. As a consequence, she has no idea of how to look at pricing other than just shop them. And other thing that was interesting is her automobile policy. The only thing she could get was $250,000 online, but she wants more because she's got some assets she wants to protect. And the question is, how do you do that? And she found it very difficult. Uh, Fortunately, my travel and event clients appreciate what I do, says someone. And I think that's great. I mean, that's fascinating. But those clients, I would suggest, are becoming fewer and fewer and fewer as time goes on, as the generations move. So here's a trend. Take it for what it's worth. But thank you for the comments. Up next is reversing pricing models. So historically, long distance calls were very expensive, particularly overseas calls. My dad was born in Scotland, and every now and then, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, we'd call back home again. You'd call the operator, and she would said, "Okay, I'll get back to you when a line comes available." We'd stand by the phone waiting for it to ring. She'd call back, and the clock would start, and it was incredibly expensive. So everybody got 30 seconds to talk on both sides, and then we'd hang up and move on. Today, calling's free. You got your cell phone, you call just about anywhere in the US, and it's for free, or maybe even anywhere in the world. It's free, depending on your provider. In the old days, network television with the 3 channels was free. Today, if you want cable TV, you've got to pay for it. Streaming TV, same thing, you got to pay for it. So it's not free anymore. Mass mailings were done by the Postal Service. Today, we do mass mailings by email. Exception to that is the junk mail that ends up in my mailbox every day, but they're getting fewer and fewer and fewer. And I'm getting more and more and more spam in my email. So you want to think about your pricing. What's going to happen to you? Are you going to be on the increasing side of pricing, or you be on the downside of pricing? It's something that you, as a business person, have to ask yourself. Points of sale are expanding. Traditionally at the restaurant, you went to the checkout counter, and it was mom or dad behind the cash register, and you paid there. Retail, the same way. You found the checkout line, you found the sales clerk in the department store, and they checked you out. Grocery store, you went to the checkout line. Airline, again, went to the ticket counter. And again, all of that is changing, uh, because you can order online, you can pay online, you can have things delivered to your home. You never have to go in anywhere to do it. Travelocity, again, you buy it online. At point of sale is your laptop or your phone. It's not the travel agent or the ticket counter. Amazon, the same thing. Carryout's the same thing. And I don't get a boarding pass anymore. They used to print out the ticket counter. It's on my phone. So I just go up to the security gate and I show them my phone and they check me in. Restaurants I've been in recently, you pay at your seat. You've got a little iPad there and you pay for it at your seat. And so just things are changing in the direction of wherever the point of sale used to be, it's moved on you to someplace else. And so if you're in retail, you want to think about where else you want to have checkout and where else you want to have some of your things be able to bought. People like organizations like Amazon have really, really changed the way we think about buying things. For the last several years, my wife and I have never have gone out shopping anymore at Christmas time. Everything gets delivered to the house. And I think last year, the year before, more than 50% of holiday purchases were bought online. So if you're in the brick and mortar business, just beware of this is the trend that's happening. People are much more comfortable buying whatever they're going to buy, sitting on their living room couch in their pajamas. They're not going out to shop anymore. That may not be true of lettuce or fresh produce or maybe fresh meat, but it certainly is going to be true of other things that I don't need to go out for, that I don't need to try on, that I don't need to test. I don't need to squeeze it to see if it's fresh. I can buy it at home and have it delivered to me. So that's a major change in the way we think about point of sale. And maybe most importantly in all of this is the accelerating adoption curves. If you look at technology or anything that's adopted over time, on the left-hand side, you see it kind of slowly grows and grows and grows, and then it kind of tapers off because everybody that's got one's got one. The measurement of accelerating or of adoption curve is when the 50% of the people that could use it do use it. What is that point? What you find is those curves are getting faster and faster, and people are adopting things faster and faster. So it used to take years and years and years, now takes very little time. If you think about it, the railroad, it took 70 years for 50% of the people to actually ride a train. Why is part of that is we didn't have any infrastructure. You have to put rails up. Rails are difficult, hard, expensive, time consuming to put up. So by the time you get enough rail system, it makes sense for me to get from Ohio to California, for example. Takes a long time to put those rails up. Washing machine, 50 years. Why? You need water in your home, not the well outside. You need electricity in your home. Until you have those two parts of the infrastructure, you can't have a washing machine. So that took 50 years. The telegraph, 40 years. Running water, where 50% of the population had it, was 35 years. Airplane, automotive, black and white television. Interestingly enough, once you had the towers and the TVs up and people had electricity in their homes, color television took half the time to do. So the internet took 15 years, cell phones only 10. The tablet less than that, social media less than that. So you think about what's happening. People are adopting the technology quicker. They also are changing from one technology to the other. So if you're a landline telephone company and not in the cell phone business, you're in trouble because fewer and fewer people have landlines. Uh, I've talked to people that haven't had a landline in years. They do nothing. They just use a cell phone all the time. So that's interesting megatrend. And that's happening with everything. And it's most of all of it's technology driven. Uh, Internet, cell phone, tablet, social media, all technology driven. And so the adoption time is amazing. You think about an app you put on your phone. How long does it take for 50% of the people to find out about it and download it and use it? It literally could be in weeks if it catches on and starts a trend. So the adoption curves of things is very quickly. The same thing is when new technology comes out, we run away, we abandon the old stuff. So whatever you were in, just be aware what may happen. Comment. There's an opportunity, a niche one, to help non-tech preferring folks. Absolutely, there's a place. Good comment. Thank you. I can't get my hair cut online. My wife can't get her nails done online yet, but still. So that's an important thing. If you're make sure whatever you're thinking about doing that you've considered what technology may do to you. Another comment says a lot of adoption curves are forced on us. Well, that's fair. Uh, Person says, actually, I've been working online since 1999, 26 years, been working online. It's interesting, further comment, how many people are left out of the economy because so much of it is online. Absolutely. And locations are realizing if they're going to get people to move in, there's got to be high speed internet and broadband. They've just got to have it, or people not going to move there. So I'm observing some of the new developments that are going up have optical cables going in. Uh, they're just bringing them in right away, so people have lots of bandwidth. Interesting trends.
There's a
So thank
couple
you for the
questions
comments.
too.
Question? We had a question? Oh my goodness.
Yes, it says, I'm from the Akron Summit Convention and Visitors Bureau. Do you see technology affecting conventions and trade shows?
My crystal ball on that's a little fuzzy. I can't see why it wouldn't. Uh, we're having a regional conference for the SCORE leadership in Nashville, Tennessee in July. They opened up the in-person travel for about a month. And if you hadn't signed up for in-person travel, they've closed the travel and now you have to attend online. So the meeting and convention businesses, I think, are moving in that direction because it's expensive to travel. Uh, you know, airline tickets, taxis, hotel rooms, food while you're on the road. It's expensive. It's not the same when you're at home. You can't shake the hand of the person next to you and say hi to them and meet them in between meetings. But I would say if you're in the convention business, that will change. Just watch it carefully because if you ignore it and it washes over you like a wave on the beach, you're kind of in trouble. Speaking of that analogy, any good surfer knows you always look way out in the ocean to see what waves are coming. You're watching that trend. That could be a good wave, not so good a wave. And it's that trained eye. The great surfers know exactly how to pick up that great wave and catch it. And so us as business owners should be looking, out in the future and see what's coming with that watchful eye so that as it gets to me, I can jump on that wave and use it to my advantage as opposed to have it wash past me and dump me on the beach where I don't want to be.
Another question. What is the difference between leasing and renting a home? What is the name of that company in the Midwest that is building and leasing thousands of homes? Thanks.
I don't I don't actually remember. I read the article probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I just don't remember who that was. Uh, but if you think about home ownership, it's a it's difficult to predict what the cost is going to be. It might need a new roof. Whereas if you're leasing, all that goes to the owner. They take care of all that. So you have a very predictable budget, which allows you to plan really well because it's a fixed number until until they raise the rent. But basically you can, for the term duration of your lease, you can plan that expense. Whereas if you're a homeowner, maybe you can't. Makes that more difficult to do. So just I don't have any great answers other than just keep your eyes open on that one. What can we watch or monitor to get the new wave? I would suggest watching the news. The news is a great reporter. There was a book written 30, 40 years ago with the same name as this webinar called Megatrends. And what they did was look at how much newsprint space got dedicated to certain topics. And so they could, based on the quantity of news space, they were predicting what would happen. So as if it gets a small little bit, maybe 1 or 2% of the news space, and then next week it's got 4 or 5 or 6, and the next week it's got 6, 8, or 10. Yeah, that might be something you want to watch. So I would watch the news and get your news from a variety of sources, not just one. Pick a couple, 2, 3, 4 that you like, and watch them on occasionally and see what they're talking about. What's going on? What's happening? What's going on in the world? What are they talking about? How are we doing on questions, Miss Laura? Are we okay?
We are okay.
Okay. And so one of the trends that I think is still emerging, but it's pretty clear to me that's what's happening, is the experience economy. There's been a book written on it called The Experience Economy. And what we've moved from is an agrarian economy to an industrial economy to a service economy, and what's coming next? And the question is, what do people value? In the agricultural economy, we value price. In the industrial and other economy, we value utility. In other words, having stuff delivered to my home weighs more heavily than if I went to the store and bought it for less of a price. So I will pay to have it delivered for that utility and convenience. So what are people going to value in the future? And the thinkers, and I happen to agree with them, believe it's going to be the experience economy. If you look at things that are experience only, you go down to Florida to Disney World and you pay a lot of money for a 1-day pass, a couple $100. And what do you walk away with that you didn't pay for? The answer is nothing. You go out to Colorado or Wyoming and you ski. Ski lifts at Vail Resorts on a Monday, the cheapest day of the week, is $299 for an all-day pass. So you get on the lift at 8 o'clock. You've got to be off the mountain by 4:30. Last lift goes up, and you walk away with nothing other than the experience. Well, you might walk away with a broken leg or a broken arm, but you get nothing but the experience. I shudder to think about the cost of a bungee jumping experience. And again, bungee jumping, you pay for just the jump, you get nothing, and you walk away. So people are much more willing today to pay for the experience. If you're in the restaurant business, I would suggest that they go there not just for the food, but for the experience. I want to go out with my wife and I want to be served. I don't want to have to plan it. I don't want to have to cook it. I don't want to have to do the dishes. I pay the bill and I walk out. And I and my wife are happy campers. So we are paying a lot more for that experience than if we cooked it at home, but we're valuing that experience in the restaurant. And if we have a great experience, that's what counts. If we have great food in a poor experience, and I mean a really poor experience, we're probably not going back. Yeah, we might give it another chance, but we might not, because there's so many restaurant options around where we live. If you have good food, maybe not great, but the experience that you walk away with is fantastic. Great service, came out on time, speed was just right. Uh, Everybody was happy. You pay a little more for that, but again, in the same way, uh, I pay for that experience, not for the product itself. And no trend discussion would be complete without talking about electric cars, uh, because they have an impact on the economy that's just incredible. So if you think about a gas engine powered car, the engine, it has over 2,000 moving parts. They rely on gas stations. The cost to fill it up, depending what you have, is $25. And I have a Jeep with gets 17 miles to gallon, so it's never $25. It's always more. You have, if you're lucky, you have 60,000 mile tires. And again, if you really push it, you've got a 300,000 mile lifespan. And the oil industry is completely dependent on that. It's an enormous industry. Think about the electric car drivetrain. It has 18 moving parts. We've got one. We recharge it at home. Just plug it into the wall. Cost per charge for a 300-mile fill up, comparable to that $25, is $250. It hardly even shows up on my electric bill. They're cautiously talking about 500,000-mile tires and a 1,000,000-mile lifespan for the vehicle. What industry does it depend on? The battery industry. Battery is going to be key. And there are automobile companies that are not going to make gas-driven cars by the year 2030. So it's really going to change. Think about the car repair shops that we aren't going to need. Think about the tire shops that we may not need if all of this on the bottom comes true. So if you're, again, in that industry, you want to think hard about what that's going to do to you in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Because it's happening. It's a trend. You can see it now. And it's happening. I mean, a couple of years ago, I didn't know what a Cybertruck was. Today, I don't think I could go out without seeing one somewhere. So that all electric Tesla Cybertruck. So that's where we're heading. That's where we're going. Any trends you're seeing today, or any questions you have, things you'd like to share with the group? Because I'm officially done at this point. So if you'd like to leave, class is dismissed. If you want to stay, I'm happy to stay.
All right. Cody says AI and robotics will perform a lot of repetitive tasks and functions ideally that would free people up to have more experiences, to your point.
Agreed. We have more leisure time defined as not working for money, than ever in the history of the U.S. or maybe even the world. So yeah, AI, robots, automation of all kinds give us more free time. So you're right. What are we going to do with that free time? Well, we're going to do something with it, and we value that experience because that's what we're paying for. So they're spot on.
All right, guys, you can type in your questions or comments. Oh, Jacqueline says, how do trends work on a global scale?
I think they work the same way globally as they do locally. What you find is things that start in one place tend to roll out to someplace else. Uh, the fashion industry is notorious for this, that things that start in Paris end up in California and New York, and they end up sometime later in the Midwest. Airbnb used to be strictly a California-based operation. Now it's nationwide. And I think they even have some opportunities worldwide. Vacation rental by owner, VBOR, again, is way beyond the shores of the US. So it starts somewhere and then rolls out. That's why, as I said, I think it's important to watch the news, because if the news is truly a global news agency, and the BBC tends to be one of those, one, not the only, you'll hear about things happening in other places that you said, I wonder how long that's going to before it gets to Ohio. Uh, and the answer is I don't know when, but it's probably coming. Comment that ownership will be concentrated. Yes, it will. If today ownership of, or used to be the ownership of the car was spread to every individual owner, now it's to the leasing companies. So you're right, ownership is going to be much more concentrated. Comments been eye-opening. Well, you're welcome. Uh, Political activism is becoming a trend. Yes, it is. People have the platform that's easier to get to. You know, without telephone and the internet, it was pretty hard to get your soapbox message beyond the town square. Now with social media, it can go worldwide in a matter of minutes. So yes, it's increasing. People's voices get heard.
Someone wrote, oh, political activism is becoming a trend.
Yes, it
Data and
is.
AI.
Yep, absolutely.
Question, given the trends that you overview, where should one position themselves if they are in the knowledge management sector, for example, consulting? Thanks.
Consulting may be one of those that in the short run tends to be trend proof. Uh, but I think as AI comes into more into play, and technology comes more into play, some of the questions that the company might hire a consulting firm for, they might be able to answer themselves with AI. I'm not sure that's possible today, but at the rate at which technology is improving and AI is improving, I would suggest that by the year 2030, a lot of the traditional things that consultants do will be gone, that people will use AI for that. Uh, but I would keep an eye on it. 2030, it's an arbitrary number. It could be 2029, 2028, 2035, but it will definitely have an impact on what clients, how clients get answers to difficult questions. Sorry. Okay.
Let's see here.
The one of the books was Megatrends, and it's a 30-year-old book, so I'm not sure it's still in print. And the other one is The Experience Economy by a guy named Paul. There's two guys that authored it. Just a second, I have a copy of it. That's the book. You see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
That's the experience. It's upside down. No, is it upside
No,
down?
you're right.
Okay.
It's
The
Joseph
experience economy, and there's the authors.
Joseph Pine, and who's the other one?
Uh,
Gilmore, James Gilmore.
yeah. Okay.
Let's see. What insights do you have on commercial real estate usage changes? Example, gas station quantity, parking lot needs, etc., in the urban planning impacts.
Uh, I think two things are going to have an impact on that. The first one would be as we get more and more and more autonomous vehicles, people will decide they don't want to even lease a car anymore. So that says, as that trend continues, fewer and fewer people will be owning and driving their own car, which says the number of parking spaces we need is going to dramatically go down. So if you're in the parking lot business, I would say, I'd be watching that pretty closely. Uh, and I mean, very closely. In the year 1900, for example, the city planners of London saw the growth in the population of London. And because it was a horse and buggy time, Their real concern was, what are they going to do with the horse manure? So they did a very extensive study on how they were going to transport and get and store the manure that came from the horses they were projecting they would get in the next 20 years. And they missed that completely because the car came in and the horse went out. So all that planning was for naught because they didn't see the trend. In 1984, a major consulting firm was asked to predict the number of cell phones in the future. This was a very prestigious consulting firm. So in 1984, they told the client that they couldn't foresee any more than 1 million cell phones out in the future. And so the company they were consulting for decided to get out of the cell phone business. Today, I forget how many billions of cell phones there are, but they missed that one too. So it's not just seeing the trend, but trying to understand what that really means, and is that really it? What does that all mean?
Podcasting as a way to connect with others and get the news. That's
Mm-hmm.
true.
Yep.
Is ownership going to concentrate in government?
Boy, now you're asking me to read the tea leaves. At this point, I would say no. Uh, and, and that's because governments tend not to think long term. If you're in the ownership business, you got to think long term. So if I'm going to own a fleet of cars, which I'm going to lease out, or said differently, a fleet of autonomous cars I'm going to run, I need to make a very huge investment and think about it for the long term. The government has very great difficulty thinking about anything other than between now and the next time I have to get elected. You see that happening in most every decision they made. They're very, very, very short-term decisions. Most times it's a mistake, but they're very short-term decisions. So the answer, I believe, would be no.
Do you think the luxury market will be affected by these trends?
I think depends what in the luxury market you're speaking to, but I don't think any market is going to be uh, safe long term. We're talking
Yes.
long term. We're not talking this year, next year. We're talking longer term. I don't think any market is safe.
Yeah, because somebody else made a comment about upcycling home and fashion goods.
Right, right, right. Question, is it going to affect medicine and dental work? Absolutely. I mean, the term telemedicine is alive and well. Uh, so on your cell phone, your laptop, your tablet, you can make a doctor's appointment, talk to the doctor, see the doctor, talk to the nurse, see the nurse, never come out of your bedroom. So absolutely. Uh, Dentists at this point, you need to go sit in his chair and he looks at your teeth, but that may change in medicine because you can now take your own blood pressure and your own uh, pulse rate, your own temperature at home. Uh, that's what the doctor usually does when you walk into the exam room. Take your blood pressure, check your pulse, check your temperature. And if you can do that from the comfort of your living room, why not? So, yes, it's going to affect everything. If you need to go into the hospital, probably not. Uh, but maybe over the long term, you won't go into the hospital. You'll stay at home. And whatever you need to do, you can do at home. Uh, so the advances in medicine are going to be really significant. Uh, I'm familiar with hip surgeries, and you go back to 1995, which isn't that long ago, a hip replacement took about 4 hours on the operating table. And you were in the hospital for 4, 5, or 6 days, depending on the severity of it. Today, they are beginning to do hip replacements outpatient. So that trend in medicine is just very clear because of the advances.
Uh, there will need to be safeguards in place as ownership transfers to access. Oligarchs could gatekeep and manipulate consumers based on controlling access.
Fair concern, uh, very fair concern. Um, you know, the digital neutrality on internet providers is a big deal. You know, by preventing their competitors from having fair access. So it's a absolutely the thing we have to worry about is the government is going to be way behind that in legislation. I mean, way behind because they won't put any legislation in place till it becomes a problem. Once it's a problem, it's too late. It's already a problem. So I think we need to think without getting political. We need to think about who our leadership is going to be in the future uh, and help them move in the direction of long-term thinking as opposed to short-term thinking.
Your thoughts on venues?
As people do more and more from home, venues are going to become less and less important. Now, there are mobile bars, which is a brand new concept. So if you're going to have a garden party in your backyard, you can get a mobile bar. Why would you go to a party center if you can do it in your backyard? Uh, so you can have a food truck, you can have a mobile bar, you can do everything in your backyard. So I think the impact of venues is going to be long term again, long term significant.
And given the changes AI will make on the nature of work, can you make some predictions on the impact AI will have directly and indirectly on the nature of higher education?
Boy, you're making me get my crystal ball out. Uh, I think we're going to see higher education change dramatically from what it is today. Today, it looks very much like a fixed curriculum. It could be butts and seats, but the fixed curriculum you could do online, and some universities are starting to do that. But still, it's a relatively fixed curriculum with some uh, electives. Uh, but if you're going to be a chemical engineer, there's certain things you need to take, just because that's the way the curriculum is designed. So the curriculum today is much more rigid. In the future, I can see just-in-time education replacing university education. So if you need to know something, you'll get that education just before you need it. Not go to college for 4 years and maybe you use that in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe you don't use it at all. But you got to pay for that fixed curriculum. Uh, so I can see that in the future it's going to be just in time. Now, I think that already has started because so many things I can learn on YouTube. I had a faucet that leaked. I don't need to take 4 years of plumbing and 2 years an apprentice to understand I got a faucet leak. So I went to YouTube and downloaded the video that told me exactly how to fix my faucet leak. I don't need to be a journeyman plumber to do that. So as more and more of that happens, uh, you're going to see more and more of this just-in-time education. Uh, we're still going to need the basics of communication skills and reading and writing, and certainly history, because we don't want to have to repeat history again. There will be basics that we'll have, but I think the nature of higher education, because it tends to be more specialized, will be just in time. So if you're a consultant and you're about to go see a client on a particular issue, on the plane, you're going to read all about it so that when you get to the client, you've just read everything you need to know. You asked AI to give you a quick curriculum. and it will find everything you need to know on the internet in a couple of minutes, and you can read it on the plane over a couple of hours, and you'll be smart when you walk into the client. Uh, if you've never changed a hot water tank, you can do it yourself if you want to. You go on to YouTube, and it'll tell you how to change a hot water tank, step by step by step. I've used YouTube for dozens of things to tell me how to do something. So I think just-in-time education, it's a long way of saying just-in-time education, I believe is a trend we should be watching very carefully, because a college education today is so expensive. It's like $100,000 or more to go Ohio State in state. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's just a lot of money. And Ohio State is not a Harvard or Princeton, which is even more, or Stanford. So I think the university is going to have to really seriously rethink what they provide.
I think we're all caught up. Somebody said, I love your crystal ball.
Thank
And
you.
somebody else said, just-in-time education. You should copyright that. Oh, let's see. The trend for AI will affect physician and dental jobs.
I think.
And that's it. We're all caught up.
Okay. Thank you,
Well,
everyone, for being attentive. Uh, our mission today was to have you think, and I think we've accomplished that mission. I think everybody's been thinking a lot hard, and I appreciate that. So you all have a wonderful holiday coming up, and check our website so for other webinars that may be coming up in the near future.
and I will send you guys an email with this recording as well as the slides. Al, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. And
I appreciate your
everybody,
time.
have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.